One of the hardest parts of getting older is feeling like something's off in your body, but not knowing exactly what. It's not just aging, it's often your hormones too. When they fall out of balance, everything feels off. But here's the good news. This doesn't have to be the story of your next chapter. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is an herbal formula made with science-backed ingredients designed to fine-tune your hormones by balancing estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol. It helps with common issues such as hot flashes, poor sleep, low energy, bloating, and more. With over 40,000 reviews and a bottle sold every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. A survey found 86% of women lost weight, 77% saw an improved mood, and 100% felt like themselves again. Start your next chapter feeling balanced and in control. For a limited time, get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com with code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Hello and welcome to Love Samantha Lee, the More Than Just Pretty podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Lee, and here we explore love, life, spirituality, and relationships through the lens of real beauty, the kind that begins the moment you decide to be unapologetically yourself. Join us as we dive into heartfelt discussions that challenge, inspire, and connect us. Are you ready to embrace your true self? Let's begin. What's up, family? It's your girl, Samantha Lee, and y'all, I have a word for you guys today. It's something that I've been praying on and something that really God has been putting really pressing on me in my own personal time. And as I've stated before, that this is part of, I don't want to say it's like a release because it is a release for me, but as I learn lessons, I don't think that we learn lessons for ourselves. I think we learn lessons for other people. And so when God teaches me something, I feel it is my responsibility to teach, to share, because I know I'm not the only one going through what I'm going through. And so this is part of that message. And I believe God is going to speak. I just need you guys to listen. Okay. So for those of you who are listening, who are tuning in, whether you driving to work, from work, if just chilling at night and you just listening to something, go ahead, relax. Okay. This gonna be something. All right. This gonna be something. All right, family. So today's episode is going to be called The Process to Promise. And I'm going to be transparent about this, as I've always tried to do on here, try to be as transparent as possible. So God is calling me in this season of my life to really walk in faith. And let me say this. I've been in the Christian faith for myself, of my own, I don't know how you want to say it, but of my own choice. I've been in the Christian faith since I was like in my early 20s, right? I will say that this is probably the most challenging place I've been in my faith. And I think it's honestly the most real I've ever been in my faith. And I'll tell you why. God is calling me to things. If you listen to any other episode, you know that I have been on a journey since the beginning of this year. I was prompted to dream again. I haven't dreamed in a while. And the reality is that I was afraid to dream. I was afraid to hope because I had been disappointed. And I didn't really realize how disappointment and the fear of being disappointed ran so deep for me. I mean, to the point that it paralyzes me. I was doing a piece of content today and I saw a topic that I wanted to, investigate and share with the world. Like I said, I feel like when I create content, you guys, anybody who watches me, I really try to create content that resonates with where I'm at in life. Now, it's not always true. There are pieces of content that might be speaking to a question that was asked of me, or something that I saw I had an opinion on, whatever that may be. But a lot of times I really try to stay close to where I'm at. And the reason being is because I feel like it's coming from a more genuine place. So anyway, I was looking at something about disappointment this week, just signs that you're struggling with the fear or the spirit of disappointment. And I looked that up because last night I was, listening to some content, and it was about a woman who was battling the fear of disappointment, and how she, came from her childhood, and it gets to the point that you're afraid to take risks in areas of your life. Some people it's all areas, some people it's sensitive areas. I would say that I probably am a little afraid of taking risk in all areas, but I'm really fearful in specific areas. And we'll talk about a little bit about that today. But she talked about how, she got a call. She was believing God for something, stepping out of faith. And she assumed when she got a call from a number, she automatically assumed the worst. And I can relate to that so much, family. God has really been dealing with me about my fear of disappointment. It's been tough. I realize that it's been something that has kind of kept me in a holding pattern, kept me stagnant, kept me from sharing and being vulnerable and things. I just, so many different things that I think that fear has done to me. And it's not just from, disappointments in my adulthood, it's from disappointments in childhood. Um, and you could look up, there's like a list of where, people fall on this spectrum. And one of the things is like needing a lot of reassurance. And y'all, that is a area of my life that I have struggled with for a long time. And instead of walking in faith, I've been coached, I've been in therapy, and people would tell me, well, just make sure you have all the facts and you're making the best decision and blah, 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 blah. But when you go into the God realm, when you go into promised land, that is a different system. Okay. Because I can be as risk averse as I want to be in worldly decision making, meaning that if I don't see the fruit of something in real life, I'm not going to make a decision in that realm. I'm going to make a decision in something that I can see. I'm going to invest in something that I can see. In God's economy, you're investing in something that you cannot see. It's not the safe choice. In fact, I've learned that the hardest decision to make is usually the right one. And in this instance, every time I want to put down a specific thing that God has called me to, just rings up in my head. The hardest thing to do is usually the right thing to do. Hardest thing to do is usually the right thing to do. And y'all, I fight with myself because I'm like, but I don't see it. But what if I hearing you wrong, God? What if this is not true? What if this is not you? What if this is just me? I don't. Then part of this disappointment phobia, that's actually a real thing, is self-doubt. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not this. Maybe I'm not. And y'all, I am driving myself crazy. I mean, literally, the pressure's on. And so on Saturday specifically, I had a moment where I just cried out to God. I mean, I cried out so hard, y'all. I might have popped a vocal cord. I'm not going to speak that over my life, but it was serious. I mean, I was really trying to hear from God. I was like, God, I need you to say yes. I need you to say no. I need you to say something, because I don't want to put my hope. I don't want to put my trust. I don't want to put my faith in something. And I did this to myself. Like, I don't want to be in a position where I'm disappointed. Disappointed. Comes down to that. So my biggest hang up in walking in faith was the fear of being disappointed. And some of you guys may be able to relate to that.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
That you feel like God is giving you a promise. It's very, very hard because when he gives you a promise, it may not make sense to anybody but you. I think last week I talked about Noah, how Noah was given a promise. Hey, listen, it's good. I'm going to flood the earth. I need you to build a boat that's big enough to house your family in 2 sets of livestock that exist. And Noah's like, okay. Took him 75 years to build this ark, not a cloud of rain in the sky, because they were in a drought for centuries. And this is what was written in Genesis. They hadn't even seen rain. So he's building an ark, and everybody's looking at him like, okay, this guy's building this big old boat, and we haven't seen rain in centuries. We haven't seen rain in our lifetime. But yet every day, he's working on this boat. And it doesn't rain, I think it's like 120 years. So he built the ark and completed it, they say between 55 and 75 years. And at 100-year mark or 120-year mark, that's when they finally saw rain. Can you imagine that? Building an ark. God's telling you he's going to flood the earth. And you have to be faithful to this every day. Or how often a week he decided he wanted to build an ark. And yet you keep on building anyway. That's incredible faith, right? That's incredible faith. And so here I am. I might be 2 months into my promise, and I'm crying out. Well, God has revealed to me other things that I didn't even realize at the time. But this has just been where the heat is turned up. But we're gonna talk about that later on in this particular episode. God in this last couple of months has really pressed upon me certain things. So I'm in this room. I am crying out. I am falling out. God, please, I need to hear your voice. I don't care if it's audible. I don't care if it scares me. I just want to know yes or no. Tell me a yes or no answer so I know how to go. I really don't want to be in a position where I'm disappointed. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to be depending on my ear to you. And then this situation occurs and then I'm disappointed. Like I honestly, family, I didn't even realize until God has called me to walk in faith, how deep this was for me. And so I'm crying out to him. I basically at that point, I start having peace. And I listened to a couple of words from Priscilla Shire, from John Bevere. And I'm listening to them on TBN, YouTube TBN. And Priscilla Shire's first, and she's talking about how to hear the voice of God based upon a book she wrote. And she talks about how the the journey of hearing the voice of God is not like we've made it. It's an ongoing situation that as you approach different places in your life, there's going to be another season where you're going to have to question and have to refine your ear. And then another season where you're going to have to refine your ear. But God calls us to a place at some point in our faith, whether we want, well, it's not want to, excuse me, but if you're open to God moving in your life, there's going to be a time where he moves you to another level that requires you to have a desire to hear him. And y'all, as I stated, I was actively having a tantrum, crying out to God, asking to hear his voice. And so she defines what that looks like. She says, does it align with scripture? Does it come up with a Bible verse? Does it, there's going to be times where you're just going to have that deep knowing in your gut. And there's going to be, usually when God points you into a direction, he's going to confirm his word. You want to surround yourself with godly counsel so that they can also understand what your, decisions that you're making and help you and guide you along the path to help kind of refine your process. So I'm like, okay, well, check. I did that. I did this. And every time I had a moment with God, he would bring up a verse. He would bring up a story. He would bring up something from his words. I was like, okay, all of this resonates, but I'm still scared. So then that kind of gives me a little peace though. As I kind of checked certain things off, and I started to understand that my spirit was leading me, whether I realized it or not, but I'm struggling with trusting the voice that I'm abiding by. And then, in as well as the enemy utilizing my fear and just punching me in the face. I mean, punching me. And y'all, I that day, I'm like, God, I am worn out. Like I feel like I'm breaking. I feel like I'm breaking. I feel like I don't know my left from right anymore. God's like, I'm not breaking you. I'm building you. I'm not breaking you. I'm building you. So as I go into this next word from John Bevere, he starts talking about the process to promise. That's why I've called this. And he says that every child of God is going to have 3 steps to a promise. It's 3 things that God does with every child of God. The first step is the promise. God is going to promise us something. And each of us have a different thing that God is promising us. The second step, the step that we don't talk enough about, is the process. The process is wilderness, right? Process is where God is going to make you uncomfortable. He's going to expose you to you. He's going to bring things up in this season that you are going to have to confront. And this is not for no reason. This is actually preparation. And that a lot of us do not steward our preparation season wrong. We try to bring comfort into preparation, and that does not belong. That God will bring you into this season to prepare you for the promise, to prepare you for the promotion. But what happens is that we get into this season and he strips us away from everything that we thought we knew. And what we try to do is bring what we know into that season when he's trying to take you from that. And so I've learned, and I've seen in just even in my own life and the people around me, is that a lot of times God will call us to something. We are so sure. But because we doubt, because we're afraid, because of these things, we try to cling on to what's comfortable when God is trying to shake us from it. And what happens is it delays the promotion. It delays the promise. So the longer you fight with God about what you want to keep in your life, the longer you want to fight about what things you want to do and don't want to do, the longer you go back and forth with him is the longer that you will remain in the wilderness. Again, the journey in the wilderness, from what John Bevere was stating, was only supposed to be a year. It was supposed to be a year process. It was technically an 11-day journey. God took them all the way around because he wanted them to start walking in faith, to increase their dependence on God, and to weed out some of these things that they had learned in the Egyptian territory. What happened was they went astray. It was a certain level of just being uncomfortable, having to rely upon God, having to rely upon manna. And so they went their own way. They complained all the way through. They said that there was sexual immorality. They were, worshiping idols. I looked up what the sexual immorality part was, and basically they had, certain types of sexual activity to worship idols at that time. Like it was a thing. And there was a lot of other things to it, which was gross, but that's part of what the Israelites were getting into in the wilderness. So idol worship, complaining, were two big major things that had God say, listen, you're defaulting to what you see versus what you don't see, and I'm providing for you. Because the whole point that every time the Israelites wanted something, every time they desired something, they would ask God, God would bring it. And so he did that because he wanted to create a dependence upon him. And so some of you guys are finding yourselves in seasons where God is trying to strip you from what you do know to introduce you to something that you don't know in order for you to increase your dependence on him. And I'm here to tell you that's not an easy process. I'm here to tell you that the process to the promise is not fun, because it strips you from everything that the world has taught you. It strips you from, oh, let me just research this and figure this out and do this and do. Most of what God calls you to do, you can't do a research, Google search for. God is going to call you to do things that absolutely do not make sense to you, won't make sense to your mama, won't make sense to your daddy, unless they speak the language of faith. And what we try to do, because if you're anything like me and you have an issue with disappointment, you rely upon the reassurance of others because you do not trust your own voice. You don't trust your own inclinations. And so you rely upon reassurance heavily in order to make decisions. And God is saying, I need to break you from that. The only reassurance you need is me. But because God is not somebody that we see, and his voice is not something that is loud, we struggle. We struggle. And then we rely upon our own intellectual wisdom, our own intellectual reasoning that keeps us in the wilderness for 40 years instead of 1 year. I have this conversation because I think a lot of people confuse desire with readiness. I want this, so that means I'm ready for it. And that's not true. That sometimes that I do believe that once we start praying to God, God does give us the desires of our heart. That I think that once we align with him, he has his hand on our intuition. He has his hand on our desires. When we invite him in, when we decide to lock in with him, we start being attracted to the things he wants us to be attracted to. And he was drawing us to the things he wants us to be drawn to. When we walk out of that alignment, we start being drawn to the things of this world. And those things are very clear. But when we get back in alignment, we start drawing towards and wanting to be near the things he wants us to be near to. And sometimes, y'all, what happens is that once we have this desire, and because God is not working on our timeline, God is not working according to what makes us feel comfortable, he's not doing it our way, and he's not going to do it our way. That is going to take longer than you wanted to. It's not going to look the way you wanted to. So you might as well just throw that out the window. And if you are half-stepping obedience, if you're kind of doing but not doing it, you are holding up your own promised land. You are in your own way. I mean, people all the time, I want this, I want that. But I've noticed that they're not willing to make the sacrifices that God is calling them, that they know God is calling them to do. They're trying to rationalize being comfortable. You're trying to rationalize what you know God didn't call you into. Like, you put you into this and you trying to find reasons why you should stay in it because it's comfortable. I'll be very transparent with you. This journey, the one thing it has not been is comfortable. And I have fought with God about getting back to comfortable. But I'm so knee deep in the daggone water, don't even feel right going back to comfortable. I'm committed to the process. And as I journey along this process, the window to obedience is much shorter every day. I'm not perfect, family. By no stretch of the imagination do I want you to think, listening to this podcast, that Sam is perfect. Sam ain't perfect. But what I will say is that in this season, if God calls me to do something, I really feel in my spirit it's him. And I know I'm starting to understand his voice. It's quick. It's quick. Well, it's quicker than it's been. I'll tell you that. I had a situation just the other day. I was going in my bathroom. I was just minding my business. A still very small, like a silent, quiet little voice says, I'm not going to bless what you pretend to be. And y'all, here's the thing. I knew exactly what was being said to me. Now, that doesn't mean that the things that, I do on the internet or anything like that is fake, because it's not pretend. I love relationships and things of that nature. But I've always known, and I've always kind of run away from, was ministry. Now, again, a lot of that is because I don't present as the typical minister, or I don't want to be a pastor. I don't want to do anything. That's not what I want to do. I'm not trying to do that. And so I did a thing called Miracle Monday. Did it for about 2 years, 2.5 years. Started it with Real Talk Kim. Shout out to Pastor Kim. And then I went to doing it with a young lady named Erica. Erica Talks on Instagram. I did that for about a year with her. And then I decided to stop. And the anointing was no longer on me. And I understand why. I wasn't living well. And I also felt like, because people were, I felt like we're condemning me because I'm divorced. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all on here. I'm divorced. They knew that I had filed. I was the one who did it. So I was being condemned. And I walked away from it. And so God, in that moment, as I was walking in the bathroom, I heard that voice. I knew exactly what he meant. That where I am right now is as far as I'm going to go doing content that is not what he's called me to create. Now, I also heard after that he didn't give me like more instructions or in-depth instructions, but what he basically stated that I felt in my spirit was that it's one thing to be a therapist who talks about God. It's another thing to be a woman of God who talks about therapy. Like, the foundation, the basis is being a woman of God. Like, I put you here, you look like this, you talk like this, you've been through what you've been through, and all of that I have created for a purpose. I don't care what anybody says. And so I think in this season of my life where God has kind of stripped me away, has kind of like cleared up my headspace and allowed me to hear things from a different ear, has kind of removed me from social media like I once was, and has kind of he's been course correcting me. I've understood that distance, that's purposeful, because he wanted me to be removed from the opinions of people. He wanted me to get to a place where my content is not contingent upon whether you clap or not, whether you like it or not. This is what God has called me to do. So if you like it or you don't, if you agree or you don't, if this is not what you think a Christian woman looks like or it does, I don't care. I'm being faithful to the call. He created me for a purpose. And this is what I'm going to do. So as I got clear about my calling and I understood what he was saying, I was like, okay, I called my assistant up. I called Pam. I said, listen, we're gonna have to change some things. I'm gonna tomorrow. I had already sent the thumbnail and everything to the person that, we were going to do a different topic and everything like that. But my reels, if you notice, my shorts have already changed, right? I've already, like, a lot of my reels and the content I'm putting out is God related content. And so me doing long forms about, 5 top toxic traits for this, it didn't align. It was like, where are you? What side are you on? And so in that moment, as I'm like calling thumbnail person, okay, we got to change that. I'm doing this now. My Mondays are going to look different now when I do on lives. Again, I just felt that inclination. In the past, that would have taken longer. In the past, I would have been like, let me wait, let me do. No, God was like, nope, change. And I was like, okay, I'm changing. Literally, I called Pam within 10 minutes of when I got that confirmation. I knew it wasn't me. And I knew it wasn't the enemy. I knew that was God. I knew it. I felt it. It was this, and God's voice is not loud. It's consistent. God's voice is not, an overpowering, do it now. It's just a small knowing. It's like a confident in your own voice telling you, do this. That's where you need to be. You need to stop that. Like, it's not something that goes against, like, I know that there's thoughts that I entertain usually when I'm trying to go against what God is telling me, when I'm doubting, when I'm afraid, when I'm spinning in my own anxiety, spinning in my own fear. That's when I start having the negativity and I'm irritable and I'm not really the most pleasant person to be around. And that's because I'm now entertaining thoughts that are not God. When the enemy starts getting a hold of your mind, because you're spinning in a different direction. You're not spinning in a positive direction. God's voice doesn't come with spinning. God's voice comes with clarity, peace. Like this morning, I had a moment with God and I'm praying to him and God is calling me to step out on faith again. And I'm walking in faith. I'm doing it anyway, despite how I feel. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this the way he's calling me to do this. I don't know if this is his voice, but y'all, I'm telling you, as you kind of get closer to God, there'll be little things that he does that let you know that he's with you. So I was, working out this morning, and as I was kind of like battling, and I felt the enemy trying to, steal what I felt I had such resolve over. And I heard in my spirit a verse, and it says, believe and do not doubt. Believe and do not doubt. Now, mind you, I don't even know the scripture to that. I just heard believe and do not doubt. And I know enough about the Bible to know that's a Bible verse. So let me look it up. Believe and do not doubt. Scripture. And that's James 1:6. But when you ask, you must believe and do not doubt. And in this verse, the Bible compares doubting to being blown about like the wind, that those who doubt should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, and those who doubt as being double-minded and unstable. And so I'm like, y'all, first of all, I didn't know that, but I heard that verse. I know enough about the Bible. That's one thing y'all need to really, really invest. Like, if you have a friend or somebody that you cool with, go on the Bible app, get on start reading the Bible. It's not like you have to memorize it. Just the fact that I've read it twice, it's something that when I'm like going through things like this, like when God is calling me to a new thing, verses and stories come up in my mind all the time. Like, as I'm struggling with things and I'm walking, and I'm like, God, I need a response from you. There's a story that's going to come up into my head. There's a verse that's going to come up to my head. And there's times where God will, put songs on my spirit. I had a moment where I'm like, God, I don't know if you can do this. Like, I don't know. This seems impossible. I don't know. And I'm spinning in my anxiety. I'm spinning in what I believe God is calling me to. And the first thing that I heard in my voice as I sat down and sat before God was the song. Like, I didn't know the lyric at first, but the song was called He's Able. Once I looked up the lyrics, He's able. And he answered my question. So again, God starts, when you start really seeking God, God does respond. But the problem is, family, is that we don't embrace the preparation season. The only way that I can even tell you about these things is because I'm honoring my preparation season. I understand that he is checking things, he's revealing things, he's moving things for a reason. Like, I had no idea that I struggled with disappointment the way that I do. I had no idea that the traumas in my life have caused such a strong reaction to vulnerability. I had no idea that I had the walls of Jericho built up around me. I had no idea. But in this process, as I'm getting closer to God, he's just made it so clear to me the areas that he's trying to clean up, because those things are incongruent with walking in faith and the places he is taking me from this point moving forward. That there's an unapologetic confidence you have to have in the word of God. And I believe that next week when I come on here, I'm going to have a testimony. I'm going to have a testimony about what he's calling me to step in faith in now. And and God is talking spicy, y'all. He giving me dates. He said, check me on the date. I said this time frame, it's going to happen. Y'all, he's done that twice. Each time it's happened. He's like, okay, check me on it again, Sam. Watch what I'm going to do. And y'all, this one's spicy. This one's spicy because he told me to prepare as if it was going to happen. And I'm like, God, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't know. And he's like, check me on it. You gon' have a praise report. So I'm believing next week, y'all, as I'm speaking now. And there's a part of me, I'm like, overcome that doubt. Like, Lord, please, overtake that. I believe, but help me overcome my unbelief, because God is saying, trust me on it. Time frame, when God gives you a time frame, that's even scarier, because it's like, that date is coming up. It's one thing, and I think a lot of people, they try to get away from the time frame thing, and I get it, because it's like, as the time gets closer, the heat gets turned up. And that's the last thing I want to land on in this process to the promise. And we're going to probably go back on this next week. But one thing that I've learned, and I learned from John Bevere on Saturday, was that he was talking about how in his season that God had showed him the example of gold. And that gold, when it's being made or being, I guess, molded into a ring or some type of jewelry, it's put into a furnace. And when it's put into a furnace, they put the furnace up to 7,000 degrees. And what this does is it separates the impurities from the gold. And that pure gold doesn't glitter. Pure gold is actually translucent. It's pure, right? And so God has spoken to me about the fact that the heat is turned up. Some of y'all might be able to relate to this. The heat is turned up. It's 7,000 degrees. And a part of you wants to give up. And I want to challenge you. The hardest thing to do is usually the right thing to do. The heat's turned up. And as the heat's turned up, all the impurities are being drawn to the surface. The fear, the unforgiveness, the pride, the ego, the bitterness, the lust, the different things that you're struggling with. The heat's turned up, it's coming to the surface. The impurities are coming to the surface. And what happens in that process with gold is that whoever's doing it, they wipe away the impurities. And so for some of you guys, the impurities are rising to the surface. You're more angry. You're more irritable. You're losing patience. I know for me, y'all, I've learned how impatient I am. I lack flexibility. I want things to happen the way I want them to happen. If they don't happen the way I want them to happen, I'm like, well, I don't count this as is happening. Like I have learned so much about myself in this journey, and that's how I know God is in it. Especially in the areas of the fruits of the spirit. I mean, just really, God has been working on me. But impatience, lacking flexibility, wanting, having control issues, wanting things to look a certain way. When they don't, you all frazzled, you all over the place. You're not pleasant to be around. When things are not going the way you want them to go, people aren't acting the way you want them to act. You're just all over the place. Like when the heat's turned up, what impurities rise to the surface? I'll be honest with you guys. As God has turned up the heat in my own life, there's been some things that surprise me that come to the surface. And I understand it because I know he's preparing me. I spoke to a young lady on Saturday. We was doing a coaching call. And some of the things that I've been learning in my process, she was dealing with in her promise, right? And so it was like a direct connection to, okay, God, I see why you're preparing me like this. I see why I'm having to go through this so that when I get to this, I understand what to do. I understand the ground level faith work that you're doing with me to extract certain things that in my next season will not be conducive to keeping the promise. God doesn't just want to give you keys to the car. He wants to teach you how to drive before you get in the car. And what we do is, family, we fight against the process. We fight against the tide. We fight against preparation because preparation takes longer than we want it to. It's uncomfortable. We like being comfortable. It's inconvenient. We don't like being inconvenienced, and it's feeling like breaking. It does feel like that. It does feel like breaking. But it's building. It's building a version of you that can handle the promise and handle it well. But what we try to do is get out of alignment, do it our own way, and then get mad when we lose it. You notice that most people that don't have process, that just, let's say they just get famous when they're young, or they just get this, or they just get that, they normally have issues. Look at people that win the lottery. They normally have issues. They normally have issues with keeping that money. Why? Because there was no process. They're broke within what? They say 3 years? There was no process. They didn't go through a process to actually learn how to steward the blessing. That is part of why God is saying, listen, I can't just promote you. I'd be irresponsible. I'd actually be giving you something that will end up being a curse in another season. Most people weren't filing for bankruptcy before they hit the lottery, but they ended up filing for bankruptcy after they hit the lottery. If I give you a blessing out of season, it's going to feel like a curse. I'm actually giving you what you desire. I'm actually preparing you for what you need in order to steward this blessing well. But we fight against it because it doesn't make sense to us. And there's a pivotal moment from process to promotion where God tests us. It's a moment where he says, listen, I want these spies to go and see the land and report back and let everybody know what they see and give us a report on the land. That was their test. They come back from the test. And most of the spies say, oh yeah, I mean, so what God said was true. I ain't gonna lie. There was grapes, there was fruit, there was flowing milk and honey. He was not lying. However, there are giants on the land. I don't think we can do it, y'all. I think God's wrong. I think they see us as grasshoppers over there. We're small. We're not, they're giants. They're actually giants. And because of their lack of faith, they were unable to enter into their promised land, and they had to die in the wilderness. There's going to be a point in your journey where you have a catalyst moment where you can choose faith or you can choose fear. And fear means comfortable. Fear means counterfeits. Fear means I'm going to stay where what I feel like it makes sense for me. And God's like, okay, well, I'm gonna let you stay in this wilderness then. Because family, no one can take your promise. No one can take it from you. The only person that can keep you from your destiny is you. This life, your biggest test when it comes to kingdom is faith. Really, truly, it's faith. Everything becomes about faith. Currency of the kingdom is faith. Where your faith is tested, that is where God is. There's a verse that I wanted to share with you guys before I jump off. I'm sorry it's a long episode, y'all, but it's a passion one. In 1 Peter 1:7, it says that the genuineness of your faith being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. This verse means that trials test the genuineness of faith and that faith is more valuable than gold. When faith remains strong through trials, it brings honor and glory to God when Jesus returns. That the genuineness of your faith, that you maintaining your faith, despite it looking like it's not going to happen, despite feeling like, okay, God, you telling me to wait on this, but I don't see it. God is showing you in this season, I can be trusted. But the problem is, family, is that this world is a completely different system. We've been taught a whole different way. A way that keeps us in the wilderness, never actually allowing the promised land to be realized. Family, we all have the choice. We can either have faith for the promised land, allow the process to occur, and rejoice in the process, rejoice in the preparation. Because regardless of what that promised land looks like it's going to happen, it is going to happen if you're being prepared for it. Embrace the preparation, embrace it, rejoice in it. Because you already know if you're being prepared for it, God is bringing you to it. But what happens is, family, and I get why, because it's hard. We give up. We stick to our comfort zone. There's been many times in this journey, family, where I've wanted to give up. Many times where I just said, this is excruciating. But there's a part of me, family, that just, I don't have peace in giving up. I can't. There's a deep, it's a deep part of my spirit that just won't let me let this go. And I can't wait. I can't wait to be the person that's on a YouTube video just telling y'all how good my God is, how faithful he was, that despite me having this fear, that despite me experiencing the things I've experienced, that he was so faithful. He never set me up to be disappointed. I can't wait. I can't wait. I love you, family, and I know this was a long episode. I apologize. But I want you to know, I want you to keep holding on to the process. The process is hard. The process is challenging. But the promise is worth it. Thank you for spending your time with us on Love Samantha Lee, the More Than Just Pretty podcast. It's been a privilege to share this space with you, where we celebrate being unapologetically ourselves. I hope today's episode has encouraged you to embrace your own unique beauty and the beauty in others. Don't forget to follow us and join our community on social media. Share your journey and your insights. And let's continue this conversation. Until next time, remember, real beauty starts with you being true to yourself. I love you, family. And I'm going to talk to you soon.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.